More than 130 Secret Service officers have been infected with coronavirus or have to quarantine in the wake of Donald Trump's campaign travel. So this report is pretty devastating because that accounts for a pretty significant portion of the Secret Service officers. The spread of the coronavirus, which has sidelined roughly 10% of the agency's core security team, is believed to be partly linked to a series of campaign rallies that Trump held in the weeks before the November 3rd election. And as we know, he insisted on holding in-person campaign events. And in the last few days, the last 2 days of his campaigning, he made 5 different stops. He made 1 stop in North Carolina, 1 stop in Pennsylvania, 2 stops in Michigan, and 1 stop in Wisconsin. So, we've seen videos of the events where people are in close proximity to one another. They're not wearing masks. And so at this point, it's pretty unsurprising that those events have led to the spread of the virus among Secret Service officers. Now, one thing that actually has been getting my attention, Ben, is how Jake Tapper has been covering coronavirus. He's gotten saltier and saltier toward Donald Trump, and it's really fascinating to see it. Why don't we watch the next video?
How is it not a dereliction of duty? The president, I mean, this is going on right now. It's getting worse. It was all predicted. Everybody's been sounding the alarm. President Trump has not announced any sort of revamping of testing, revamping of steps needed to be taken, contact tracing. What should he be doing right now?
Well, I mean, there is, I'll be honest, if it were me, and I'm probably glad that nobody thinks it should be me, but I would hand this over to the coronavirus task force and the CDC and say, get to work. Do daily briefings, let the American people know what's happening, create a national strategy. Nobody likes to hear the term lockdown, but there are some places that are spiraling out of control right now.
So that's just a little taste of how Jake Tapper has been covering coronavirus lately. And I mean, I definitely understand his frustration. I've been feeling it. But usually CNN tries to be a little milquetoast in the way they cover things. So I love watching him realize just how incompetent Trump really is.
Yeah, CNN has gotten to the place where they're like, we're going to call Donald Trump what he is in those segments. When listening to them saying about how we may be forced into a lockdown because some places are spiraling, that's like the entirety of the United States is spiraling out of control. It's because we made literally no effort to do anything about it beyond the initial quasi lockdown. But Donald Trump has this recklessness about him, and if we want to understand how he is being reckless with America, look at how reckless he's being with his own life. Right now, he probably has a Secret Service detail of people who are still nervous because all of his people who would cover him and they have the confidence and the skill set, those people at the top of the line, they're probably sick with COVID-19. Donald Trump is putting his own life at risk because of his ignorance. So if he's going to destroy himself, what do you think he'll do to this country?
Right. I mean, he failed to keep himself safe from the virus. He failed to keep his family safe from the virus. He failed to keep members of his administration safe from the virus. In fact, more than a dozen White House aides have tested positive for the virus just in the past week, including a range of low-level assistants and secretaries, officials said. Offices that have been affected include political affairs, legislative affairs, and communications. Let's name some specific names here. Among those who are infected are White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and outside political advisors Corey Lewandowski and David Bossie. So, I mean, he just doesn't take it seriously. And I really want to emphasize that clearly Donald Trump and the people who work for him have access to healthcare that ordinary Americans do not have. One of the reasons why it was so important to flatten the curve in the early days of the pandemic was that our healthcare system is easily overwhelmed by an influx of patients. And so you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're not going to be able to get the care that you need to survive if you contract the virus. But unfortunately, many parts of the country are experiencing that right now. And it's just absolutely devastating. Trump might have access to all of these different experimental drugs, round the clock care. Average Americans don't get that. So it is a dangerous situation for them. Part of the problem with how the country has handled the pandemic is that in order to really control the virus and prevent it from spreading so rapidly, you do need shutdowns. You need a vaccine, and until you have a vaccine, either you need to really encourage people to practice social distancing and wearing a mask. In this country, I feel like it's nearly impossible because people somehow think that's stomping on their liberties. But the reason why the government doesn't want to do it is because what's the best way to encourage people to stay home? Pay them to stay home.
Yes.
Right. I get the economic frustration that people have been feeling as a result of this pandemic, and we can't even get a third round of stimulus for people. It's insane.
Why are they so perfectly designed to destroy us? Like what they think is like liberty and freedom is literally what could destroy us. And COVID-19 is just one example of it. The greatest expression of oppression in their minds is having to wear a mask. But you could save some lives if you did.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.